In this series of Arming the Unarmed, we're going to discuss the revolver. Why a revolver? Aren't they obsolete, irrelevant? The current trend is the high-capacity striker-fired automatic, preferably a 9mm. So much so that the Niners currently will tell you that if you don't have a striker-fired high-capacity 9mm, you might as well be unarmed. Dial 911 and die. Nothing else will do. We can admit that the traditional single-action automatic, such as the 1911, is far too complex for someone who simply wishes the bare minimum for self-protection. It is too complicated to operate and has too many options. The striker-fired high-capacity automatic, however, is an attempt to introduce the simplicity of a revolver and combine it with the higher magazine capacity and faster reloading ability of the automatic. So, why would someone opt for a revolver over a pistol such as the Glock or any of the other striker-fired automatics? Let me demonstrate. There's a difference between shooting a weapon and running a weapon. Shooting a weapon is simply picking it up, squeezing the trigger, and sending rounds down range. To run it, you must be able to load the weapon, render the weapon safe, and clear any malfunctions the weapon might have. The ability to clear a malfunction involves changing the magazine and cycling the slide. Load and make ready.
Nope. Can't.
So what about a 22? Maybe Grandma here can be given a 22 automatic. After all, the slide is very much easier to operate. Let's see if that works. Load and make ready. One person's solution to this problem is what you might call the fire extinguisher option. Take the weapon, load, make ready. Here you go, Grandma. You have 15 chances, or in a blue state, 10 chances to get yourself out of trouble. Once weapon's empty, slide lock back, Grandma's out of the fight. But 10 to 15 rounds, you might say, that's even more than enough. One caveat. If the person is not strong enough to operate the slide, chances are that person is not strong enough to hold the weapon firmly. The automatic is recoil operated. It has to push against something. If you do not hold weapon firmly enough, the slide does not have anything to push against. Now you're talking a malfunction. The weapon can stovepipe, short feed, short cycle, misfeed, double feed, or any other malfunctions that bestow the automatic. And since Grandma can't run the weapon and clear the malfunctions, well, in as few as 1 shots, maybe 3, Grandma's out of the fight. So all of you who are invoking the fire extinguisher option, Here, Grandma, you got 15 chances, or in a blue state tin. You need to take Grandma to the range. And even though you are loading and prepping the weapon for her, make sure she can shoot at least one box of ammo without any stovepiping, short cycling, or misfeeds. If you can't, well, then Grandma ain't gonna get 10, 15 rounds off. So now we have the 5-shot 38 caliber Smith & Wesson J-frame. Let's see what Grandma can do with this. Load and make ready. Grandma's out of speed loaders. Load and make ready. Reload. As long as I can keep Grandma supplied with bullets, she can stay in the fight. She might be limited to no more than 5 rounds per engagement, and if I can cover her between engagements, she can stay in the fight pretty much indefinitely, as long as her ammunition supply holds up. Not only that, 38 is more potent than a 22. Now that we've made a case for the revolver, it's a question of which revolver should one buy. The oldest and most traditional is the single-action revolver. What makes it single-action is that the hammer has to be cocked after every shot. The word single-action comes from the fact that trigger only does one function, drops the hammer. Another reason they call it single action is because the weapon can be fired only one way. What makes the single action revolver unsuitable for self-defense, in spite of the fact that it was the tool of the North American genocide that sealed the fate of the Native Americans, is the fact that it is slow to reload. To unload or reload the revolver, you must first open the loading gate, and then, using the ejecting rod, eject each of the rounds. Turn the cylinder, eject. Turn the cylinder, eject. Repeat this 6 times. Then to load the revolver, you must then put a round in, rotate the cylinder, insert a round, rotate the cylinder, insert the round, rotate the cylinder. In a self-defense situation, once you've fired all 6 shots, the single-shot revolver is, for all intents and purposes, out of the fight. If you are looking to arm yourself, the single-action revolver should be crossed off your list as something to buy. If you happen to have one, and you absolutely do not wish to spend money on a double-action revolver, there is a technique for using the single-action revolver in a self-defense situation. If you have a partial engagement where you fire only 2 to 3 shots between engagements, you eject the empty shell, insert a new one. Eject the empty shell, insert a new one. Whatever you save in money on buying a double action, you're going to expend on mental energy learning how to operate this and run it in a self-defense situation. There is no free lunch. If you have one and want to learn how to use it, by all means. If you're looking to buy a revolver for self-defense, cross the single action off your list. Next, we have the double action revolver. This is the gold standard for using a revolver in self-defense. Now, there are some exotic models, such as, while this one is still double action, it is what's called a break top. You reload it by simply breaking the top. The advantage here is the shells automatically eject. You don't have to take an extra step to manually eject the empties. When you open the break top, the shells automatically eject. Put the new rounds in, close the top, you're ready to go. Most of these break tops currently are old, no longer in production, and are normally limited to .22 long rifle. So if a .22 revolver is all you want to have, and you come across a break top, it is not a bad weapon to have. That leaves us with the double action. Now, there are two reasons the revolver is called a double action. The first is that the trigger performs two functions. It cocks the hammer and fires the weapon. The second reason is that the revolver can be operated in two ways. What is commonly referred as double action, or the option to manually cock the weapon and fire it single action. The first description is more correct because there are revolvers that are not capable of being cocked. The hammers are either barbed or totally concealed, and they are referred to as DAO, or double action only. The revolver has something called a utility curve, something that is also referred to as the revolver curve. We have a usefulness factor going from 1 to 10. As a beginner, the revolver is extremely useful. As you get into more and more advanced courses of fire, its usefulness drops off sharply. So when you get into the average enthusiast zone, if you are able to master the automatics become far more useful. As you become an expert, when you're a highly practiced shooter, the revolver then regains its usefulness and becomes what one might call an expert's weapon. So if you are limited to simply picking up a revolver and dealing with a single or maybe 2 or 3 threats, then the revolver is extremely useful. As you get into multiple engagements and have to reload between engagements, the revolver becomes less useful and the automatic takes over. As your skills, however, increase to an expert level, the revolver, especially when you have magnum power, can now become an expert's weapon. Regardless of what the Niners say about advanced bullet designs, making the 9mm and other minor calibers every bit the equal of your major calibers or magnum calibers, the magnum caliber revolver is still the king. In spite of being out of service for decades, the .357 Magnum revolver still holds the one-stop shop record in law enforcement. Place one round in a vital area, the .357 Magnum has produced the largest number of one-shot stops, and with the current trend of volume fire over single accurate fire, that record has no danger of being broken by the automatics. What did come close was an automatic cartridge called the .357 SIG. It was an attempt to duplicate the .357 Magnum cartridge's ballistics in a rimless automatic pistol cartridge. And in spite of the fact that its success rate was on par with the .357 Magnum. The current trend is to go back to 9mm. Back to our utility curve. Once again, as a beginner, basic self-defense, low intensity, holding off one or two intruders, the revolver is extremely useful. If you're starting to get into more advanced, multiple threats, multiple engagements, having to do multiple reloads, the automatic will serve the average enthusiast best, provided the average enthusiast is able to run an automatic. As you become highly practiced and an expert, the revolver in Magnum calibers has the highest probability of ending any conflict with a single decisive blow. So one might ask, why don't they make Magnum automatics? The answer is they have, or at least attempted to. Most popular is the Desert Eagle. First came out in .357 Magnum, later .44 Magnum, and a custom-made .50 Action Express. The Coonan was an attempt to fit a .357 Magnum rimmed revolver cartridge into a 1911 style frame. The Automag 3 came out in .22 Magnum, later .30 carbine, and I do believe .45 Win Mag, don't quote me on that. The Arla Grizzly was an attempt to produce an automatic chambered for a rimless .45 Winchester Magnum cartridge. Cycling rimmed revolver cartridges and automatics became problematic. They had reliability and feed problems. The rimless Magnum automatic cartridges never caught on. So, when it comes to Magnum power, the revolver remains king. Now this comes to another option you might have. If you're a beginner looking for basic defense, but someday hope to achieve expert status, instead of buying a .38 revolver, buy a .357 Magnum revolver. As a beginner, you can load .38 specials into your .357 Magnum revolver, and you can make do quite well. Not only that, because the .357 Magnum revolver is a little bit heavier, it will handle recoil much better than the .38 revolver, especially the alloy-framed lightweight carry models. Now, if you're going to conceal carry, obviously you might want the lightweight alloy-frame .38s. If you can carry the extra weight, by all means, get the .357 Magnum. As your skills increase and you decide to become an expert, simply by buying different ammunition, you can now go from novice, skipping over the intermediate, and become an expert with a Magnum. If your need is basic self-defense, being able to pick up a weapon and fire it under extreme stressful situations without having to operate a manual safety, insert magazines, or clear jams, the revolver is just for you. If you need to do other more advanced skill sets, the automatic might serve you better. If you can operate the automatic, if you're willing to budget the brain power to running it, loading it, clearing malfunctions, and reloading the weapon, how to run it. If you one day hope to be an expert, once again, the revolver might just be up your alley. Which is best for you? That's for you to decide. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.